Hey everybody, how are you doing? I have to tell you, I go down my basement every single night and I look for a book to read in the evening to you guys. And I actually had to laugh at the book that I pulled out of the basement today. All these books used to belong to my daughters, but I found one that was actually my book when I was a little girl. And again, I have to laugh, and you'll laugh. Maybe you'll laugh when you see the title, but also want you to notice I wrote my name on the top. So the name of the book is The Five Chinese Brothers. Kind of, we'll let that go there. And if you look at the top, look at that. I wrote my name. My maiden name was Doherty, and my first name is Missy. Many of you know that. So I pulled this one out. I thought, why not? We'll read Five Chinese Brothers by Claire Hutchard Bishop. Once upon a time, there were five Chinese brothers, and they all looked exactly alike. They lived with their mother in a little house not far from the sea. The first Chinese brother could swallow the sea. The second Chinese brother had an iron neck. The third Chinese brother could stretch and stretch and stretch his legs. The fourth Chinese brother could not be burned. And the fifth Chinese brother could hold his breath indefinitely. Wow, they all had superpowers. Every morning, the first Chinese brother would go fishing, and whatever the weather, he would come back to the village with beautiful and rare fish, which he had caught and could sell at the market for a very good price. One day he was leaving the marketplace. A little boy stopped him and asked if he could go fishing with him. No, it could not be done, said the first Chinese brother. But the first boy begged and begged, so finally the first Chinese brother consented. Only one condition, he said, and that is you shall obey me promptly. Yes, yes, the little boy promised. No pictures on that page. Early the next morning, the first Chinese brother and the little boy went down to the beach. Remember, said the first Chinese brother, you must obey me promptly. When I make a sign for you to come back, you must come at once. Yes, yes, the little boy promised. I skipped the page. Then the first Chinese brother swallowed the sea. Can you imagine swallowing the entire sea? And all the fish were left high and dry at the bottom of the sea, and all the treasures of the sea lay uncovered. The little boy was delighted. He ran here and there, stuffing his pockets with strange pebbles, extraordinary shells, and fantastic algae. Look at his mouth. He's got the sea in his mouth. Near the shore, the first Chinese brother gathered some fish while he kept holding the sea in his mouth. Presently, he grew tired, and it's very hard to hold the sea. So he made a sign with his hand for the little boy to come back, and the little boy saw him, but paid no attention. Oh no, he didn't keep his promise. Oh no, look. The first Chinese brother made great movements with his arms. That meant, come back. But did the little boy care? Not a little bit. And he ran further away. Then the first Chinese brother felt the sea swelling inside him, and he made desperate gestures to call the little boy back. But the little boy made faces at him and fled as fast as he could. The first Chinese brother held the sea until he thought he was going to burst. All of a sudden, the sea forced its way out of his mouth and went back to its bed, and the little boy disappeared. I'm sorry for all the dinging. When the first Chinese brother returned to the village alone, he was arrested, put in prison, and condemned to having his head cut off. In the morning of the execution, he said to his judge, Your Honor, will you allow me to go bid my mother goodbye? It is only fair, said the judge. So the first Chinese brother went home, and the second Chinese brother came back in his place. All the people were assembled on the village square to witness the execution. The executioners took a sword and struck a mighty blow. But the second Chinese brother got up and smiled. He was the one with an iron neck, and they simply could not cut his head off. Everybody was angry, and they decided that he should be drowned. On the morning of the execution, the second Chinese brother said to the judge, "Your Honor, will you allow me to go bid my mother goodbye?" "It is only fair," said the judge. So the second Chinese brother went home, and the third Chinese brother came back in his place. He was pushed on a boat, which was headed to the open sea. When they were far out to the ocean, the third Chinese brother was thrown overboard. Oh, this is a neat page. But he began to stretch and stretch and stretch his legs all the way down to the bottom of the sea. And all the time, now look, we have to turn the book. Isn't that pretty cool? And all the time, his smiling face was bobbing up and down on the crest of waves. He simply could not be drowned. Everybody was very angry, and they all decided that he should be burned. On the morning of the execution, the third Chinese brother said to the judge, "Your Honor, will you allow me go bid my mother goodbye?" "It is only fair," said the judge. So the third Chinese brother went home, and the fourth Chinese brother came back in his place. He was tied up to a stake, fire was set to it, and all the people stood around watching it. In the midst of the flames, they heard him say, "This is quite pleasant. Bring some more wood," the people cried. The fire roared higher. "Now, it is quite uncomfortable," said the fourth Chinese brother, for he was the one who could not be burned. Everyone was getting more and more angry every minute, and they decided to smother him. On the morning of the execution, the fourth Chinese brother said to the judge, "Your Honor, will you allow me to go bid my mother goodbye?" "It is only fair," said the judge. So the fourth Chinese brother went home, and the fifth Chinese brother came back in his place. A large brick oven had been built with a village square, and it had been all stuffed with whipped cream. The fifth Chinese brother was shoveled into the oven right in the middle of the whipped cream, and the door was shut tight, and everybody sat around and waited. They were not going to be tricked again, so they stayed there all night and even a little after dawn to make sure. And then they opened the door and pulled him out and shook himself and said, "My, that was a good sleep." Everyone stared open-mouthed and round-eyed, but the judge stepped forward and said, "We have tried to get rid of you in every possible way, and somehow it cannot be done. It must be that you are innocent." "Yes, yes," shouted the people. So they let him go and went home. And the five Chinese brothers and their mother all lived together happily for many, many years. Okay, and that is the end of our story, The Five Chinese Brothers. It's very, very old. The papers were actually kind of ripping as I was turning them. That's how old they are. Written by Claire Hutchett Bishop and Kurt Weiss. Okay, I hope you enjoyed tonight's story. And again, don't forget, join our Google Classroom, and please leave me some comments. Good night.